Scott McTominay just had the best season of his career, yet no one's talking about him.
No, I didn't see it coming that he was going to be so good. You know, you expect him to be a good midfield player. He's a good midfield player. He can do most things you want from a central midfield player. He can get into the box, he can score goals, he's good defensively, he can see a pass as well. But you didn't think he would do it quite so consistently and be such a force.
McTominay had the kind of season in Serie A that most infielders can only dream about. In his very first year in Italy, he didn't just adapt, he absolutely took over. With 12 goals to his name, he finished as the top scoring midfielder in the entire league. He broke a 63-year-old record for the most goals scored by a Scottish player in Serie A, and yet somehow, barely anyone is talking about it. It's honestly kind of crazy. The guy didn't just help his team reach the top, he sealed the title with a winning goal. That alone should have made headlines everywhere. And on top of that, he was named Serie A Player of the Season. Massive. But somehow, while the football world's busy hyping up flashier names, McTominay's entire run is being overlooked. Like his season didn't even exist. People really don't get how dominant he was. So let's take a step back and unpack the whole thing. Hey, before that though, you know the drill. We give you quality content like this, and in turn, all you've got to do is hit that subscribe button to the channel. It's that simple. You see, Scott McTominay's summer move was one of those transfers that came out of nowhere but ended up flipping the script entirely. The guy had been at Manchester United basically his whole life, but last summer, both he and the club decided it was time. He needed something new. United needed to balance the books. And just like that, he was off to Napoli for £25.7 million.
Manchester United have announced the departure of Scott McTominay to Napoli.
Now here's where it gets wild. Napoli weren't even planning on signing him at first. They had another midfielder lined up, Marco Brescianini from Frosinone. Now the deal was practically done. Medicals booked. Everyone thought it was just a matter of time. But then Brescianini suddenly heads to Atalanta instead, on loan with an obligation to buy. And out of the blue, McTominay's name pops up. Within hours, Napoli acted fast and landed a player who would go on to change their season. Now, let's not forget, Napoli were in chaos at the time. They'd just been battered 3-0 by Verona in their league opener.
Haroui, it's got away from Oliveira. Haroui can square it. They want a third. They get a third. It's Daniel Mosquera again.
The ghosts of their disastrous Scudetto defense were still hanging heavy around the club. Antonio Conte, their new boss, was already feeling the heat. So when McTominay, Lukaku, and Billy Gilmore rolled into town, Napoli fans weren't sure what to expect. But McTominay, well, he made sure nobody forgot his name. In his first appearance at the legendary Maradona Stadium during a Coppa Italia match against Palermo, he came off the bench and, within seconds, scored with his very first touch.
Lukaku already getting involved in the action, cuts the ball back, and that is quite an impact by Romelu Lukaku.
Talk about an entrance. From that moment, he just clicked. He was just everywhere, winning balls, driving forward, setting the tempo. That fire, that grit, well, it instantly won over the fans. But more importantly, it won over Conte. Everyone knows Antonio Conte as the back three guy. That's kind of his thing. But after that brutal 3-0 loss in his Napoli debut, reality hit hard. It was a wake-up call. And instead of doubling down, Conte did something no one saw coming. He changed. He scrapped the back three. That's right, the back three guy switched to a back four. And it turned out to be a game changer. That one tweak flipped the script. Now, Napoli could control the middle, not just the wings. They built from the back in a 2-4-2-2, moving the ball fast and direct. Enter Romelu Lukaku and Scott McTominay. This setup was built for them. The wide players tucked in, the fullbacks had freedom to roam, and suddenly, Napoli were cooking. Once they crossed into the opponent's half, the formation morphed again into a narrow 4-2-2-2. Wingers cut inside, fullbacks stretched the pitch, and the midfield kept things balanced. But when Conte really wanted to go for it, well, then the team shifted into an ultra-aggressive 3-1-4-2, and that's when McTominay started to shine. McTominay wasn't just holding the midfield anymore. He was everywhere. getting forward, finding pockets, breaking lines. Conte gave him the green light to roam, to attack, to trust his instincts, and it paid off in a big way. The numbers told the story. McTominay was averaging 2.4 shots per 90, easily a personal best. He ranked top 15 for possession, one in the midfield third, but more importantly, he was spending way more time in the opponent's box than his own, for the first time ever. His 3.6 touches in the opponent's box per 90 were a big step up from the 2.7 he averaged at United. He looked sharper, more confident, and way more involved. He wasn't just part of the attack anymore. He was the attack. Right from the start, he delivered in the biggest moments. Scoring in the opener against Inter, Napoli's toughest title rivals, wasn't just a goal, it was a statement. Then came January. Napoli were in a war with Atalanta, the match swinging back and forth, and McTominay popped up with a goal in a wild 3-2 victory. Totally insane. In Napoli's 2-0 win over Torino on April 27th, McTominay kicked things off with a goal that was all about reading the moment. It started with a short free kick, and there he was, just hanging around at the edge of the box, waiting. Di Lorenzo spotted Anguissa making a darting run into the area and slipped the ball his way. Right then, McTominay came alive, charging toward the space like he was ready for the cutback. But here's the twist. Amir Rahmani drifted into that same space at the last second. Most players might have just kept going, but McTominay instantly read the shift. Rahmani's run dragged a Torino defender upfield, and that's when McTominay flipped the script. He peeled off and darted into the now vacant space instead. Anguissa spotted it and squared the ball perfectly. The shot took a deflection off Saul Coco, but it didn't matter. McTominay had already done the hard part. Fast forward to the 1-0 win over Monza, and McTominay was at it again, this time inside the box before the move even unfolded. Napoli were working down the left wing, and Lukaku and Politano drawing defenders wide. McTominay stood right in front of Monza's Luca Caldirola, almost baiting him. Then came the clever part. As the ball rolled towards Raspadori, McTominay shifted, sneaking around Caldirola from the blind side. That tiny adjustment made all the difference. The defenders were locked onto Lukaku and Politano, so Caldirola had no help. Raspadori whipped into a brilliant cross, and McTominay met it with perfect timing, smashing in the winning goal. McTominay made a habit of breaking the deadlock so often that fans started calling him apribottiglia, the Italian word for bottle opener. And honestly, it fit him perfectly. He was the guy who always got things started. In April, with the season reaching its boiling point, McTominay was electric. 3 games in a row. Empoli, Monza, Torino. He opened the scoring each time. That run earned him a place in history. The first Scot to ever win Serie A's Player of the Month. Not bad for someone many doubted when he first landed in Italy. And just when you thought he couldn't top it, well, he went and did that against Cagliari. The title was on the line. Napoli had to win. And then came the 42nd minute. One perfect strike, and the entire city erupted. That goal sealed a 2-0 win and clinched the Scudetto. By season's end, he had 12 goals and 4 assists in the league, plus another in the Coppa Italia. That's 18 goal contributions, more than any midfielder has ever managed in their first Serie A season. Even Kaká didn't pull that off in his debut year at AC Milan. And as if that wasn't enough, McTominay also smashed a record that stood for over 60 years, outscoring Dennis Law's old mark of 10 goals in a single Serie A season by a Scot. Under Antonio Conte, he wasn't just consistent, he was a machine. Week in, week out, he delivered. And when the MVP awards rolled around, no debate. At 28 years old, McTominay was crowned the best player in Serie A. Earlier in the season, fans were chanting about Kvaradonja, the nickname given to Kavicha Kvaratskhelia, before his January move to PSG. But by the end of it all, there was a new hero in town. And this wasn't just a great season, it was history in the making. McTominay had arrived in Naples with quiet expectations and ended up carving his name right alongside legends like Maradona and Cavani.